Well, welcome to Daybreak today. Bryan Taunton, Director of the Sylacauga Commercial Development Authority in Sylacauga. And Bryan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jimmy Dale.
You
Good
know,
morning.
You've been doing this job a long time as a volunteer. Congratulations on being hired to do it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a journey. I think I've been in the position of chair of the board for about the past 10 years. I've been on the board for the going on now 11 years. So it's been a journey through the process. It's been a lot of fun to watch it change and grow and blossom from what it once was. And I think we've had a really good positive impact on our city. So I'm thrilled to be a part of the...
So for people who may not know exactly what is the Sylacauga Commercial Development Authority and what do y'all do?
Well, obviously by nature of our name and defined by state code, our primary interest is to grow commercial retail development in the city, which generates sales tax revenue. And of course, we have influence and impact anything that might encourage that, such as residential development and things like that. So we work to bring that into the city.
One thing that I hear a lot of people talk about is residential development.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit this morning.
Well, obviously it's a great need. We just in our current situation as we are, it is a great need. We've got a great housing shortage of affordable housing in our city. And as we continue to work and bring in new industry into our city with higher paying jobs, which, because you can't build our job is to bring in commercial retail, but you can't build a community on commercial retail. So we need some real jobs. Well, one of the things that's going to invite those industries to come into town is going to be residential development. Now, we've got a lot of acreage in our city that is ready to be redeveloped into residential. There's a lot of potential out there, and we're actually looking at some projects right now to enhance those efforts. I can't go directly into that, but there are plans, and I've met with the mayor, and he's on board. He likes what he's hearing, and so I had a meeting a couple of Saturdays ago. We spent 4 hours on this very subject. So there are things that are developing that I think the city is going to find very exciting.
Now, the position of directorship is now a paid position. How did that develop, Bryan?
Well, as we continue to grow and become more and more focused and on target with our state guidelines and what we're supposed to do, the scope of work that we're actually supposed to be doing, which the city had largely for years basically looked at the CDA as an entity that focused on downtown, but that's not what it is. And it brought a lot of shortfallings upon the CDA because of that thinking, that way of thinking. Our scope is much larger than that. So as we've been bringing it along, correcting some past issues and so forth, and bringing new commercial interest into town, then we could see that this was a growing responsibility. I was doing it as a volunteer, and I'm not pinning flowers on myself, but most people would not have put.
You spent a lot of hours.
A lot of hours on various projects. I mean, you look at, we just opened the Harbor Freight here in town. That's a 3-year project that we've been working on and dealing with things there. But they're open, they're operating, so we're thrilled with that, and there are others on the way. But what we did, we saw the need that, look, somebody's got to take this on because I couldn't keep the pace up that was growing. And we also need someone that is available that can go to the trade shows and represent our city, that can go to places like Auburn University and take the trainings and so forth. And I really, honestly, I didn't want to make the time to do it. I was serving as a volunteer on the board. And then we were given permission last year in the last fiscal budget to hire a part-time executive director. Well, Jimmy, what you get when you start thinking and considering somebody in part-time, then you've got to have somebody that's very focused, that has the contacts, that knows how the CDA is supposed to function and to operate, and there's a large learning curve in that. And to get somebody that to actually run an organization like the CDA, that's a very qualified individual, and the average annual pay for that individual is quite steep. We're not in a position to pay that. And so they said, you know, we'll look at a part-time. Well, after doing some looking and some putting the word out, we were searching for someone. No, actually, we had a few conversations, but no one really applied and showed a lot of interest that had the ability. And so the board member said, why don't you just take the position? And I said no. I really couldn't imagine myself at that time, because, as you know, we were moving into the mayor's race, and I was thinking about that. And then after we got that behind us, then they came back and said, you know what, will you take the position? We're not going to find anybody, and you're putting a lot of time into this. And so I relented and said, okay. I met with the mayor, and we had a great meeting, and that pretty much slam dunked everything, and I agreed, and so here we are.
It's a paid position. Where does the funding come from, Bryan?
Part of the funding comes from the city, and part of the funding comes from CDA generated funds and our annual allocation.
You have been doing this a long time as a volunteer, and you and I both know as ministers, you can volunteer people to death.
Yes.
But as a paid position, you can really focus full time on this now. So where do you see us going here in Sylacauga in the next 5 years?
Well, I think we're going to keep the pace. I think in my conversations with Matt, he's like me, he's very growth focused, and we have a great understanding, and I think both having a love for the city, and even though we ran in opposition to each other, and what some might say a rather heated campaign, we both realize what's in the best interest of our city.
And all that's behind us.
All of that, that's done.
Yeah.
We both understand that the best interest for our city is for us to work collectively to move our city forward. So to do that, then what are the next steps? Well, we've got to be looking at some of these opportunities that we have and creating avenues to make these projects happen. We're right now, I'm meeting with one individual who's helping us look towards some possible grant opportunities out there. They're kicking around the idea of bringing in Main Street, which I think could be very beneficial to our downtown area, just in terms of the grant money they have access to. So there could be some benefit there. There are some things that we're looking to do. For instance, on 280, we want to look to create a retail priority zone on 280, where we limit some of what's coming in out there and how it's situated on 280, because we want primarily retail generating. Our space is very limited, so we need to make the most of what we've got. So we're going to do that. I'm in process right now of going back and reorganizing all of my old notes to create the downtown entertainment district and bring that back to City Council.
That's something that's important to you, isn't it?
Very much so. There's so much red tape that an individual has to go through in order to do, and it has to be done. I'm not faulting the administration or city clerk's office or anything. All these things have to be done. But by creating an entertainment district, then we can bypass a lot of that. We won't have to, the individuals won't have to go through that. And so I think that's important, but that also is going to work to create more of a walking district downtown that I think that we need. And then of course we just passed, the City Council passed right now it's temporary, a 6 months temporary hold on any new alcohol, tobacco, and vape stores. So I think within the next, actually I believe we'll have it in the next 3 months ready to present. We'll be presenting that then to City Council for a moratorium of probably at least 3 to 5 years and see.
A lot of people think that's kind of gotten out of hand, you know, with some of these stores that are really describing themselves in a way that maybe they're not quite that way.
Yes, and also selling some products I
Yeah.
think that are highly in my book questionable.
Questionable, yeah.
And we need to be careful there. And there's another thing there that we're going to have to move forward and look at is, you know, with Alabama's new marijuana law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we need to. Our next step, I think, is to pass a moratorium on that. Period. On any marijuana sales, pharmaceutical sales, or what have you, in our city, until these state laws are completely ironed out, because there's a lot of gray
Yes.
area there that we don't. And there are other cities that have already passed these moratoriums. So we wouldn't be any different than those cities. We just want to make sure that we have a city that's inviting for people to move to, for industry to move to, and obviously from our perspective, for commercial interest to look at Sylacauga.
Yeah.
And those things, you know, whether folks want to admit it or not, but when a retailer looks at your city and they look at the demographics and they see, well, wait a minute, you know, every 3 to 5 square miles, they've got a tobacco, a vape package store. Well, those are signals of a city that's in crisis or in downfall. And so that they're going to pull back from looking at that city. So in order to maintain an appealing nature, we want to make sure that we're not hitting those marks in their radar.
Yeah. Bryan Taunton, our guest this morning. Bryan, Director of the Sylacauga Commercial Development Authority. And Bryan, always a pleasure and a lot to unpack. We'll do another segment later on, but we appreciate you coming by.
Thank you so much, Jimmy Dale.
Got more Daybreak just ahead. Don't go away.